Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and this is Mukesh Soni. In this video, we shall have the discussion of the important questions of a famous story, The X, written by the famous writer R.K.NARAYAN, and this story is prescribed for the first semester BA Generic English, Bangalore University and Bangalore North University, and this video is based on the 2 marks and 5 marks questions with reference to the textbook. Now, the 2 marks questions from the story The X. What did the astrologer say about Velen? An astrologer passing through the village foretold that Velen lived in a three-storied house surrounded by many acres of land. So many acres of garden. So what was the forecast? That this boy Velen will live in a three-storied house which will be surrounded by many acres of garden. Why was Velen's father angry with him? Wellen's father was very much angry because he came late to home for the midday meal and he was slapped. Wellen's father slapped his face one day for coming late with the midday meal. So he was so angry. He was very much angry due to this. What difficulties did Wellen face during his journey to Malgudi? Whelan starved for a couple of days. He begged wherever he could, and he arrived in Malgudi. So he didn't have food for 2 days, for a couple of days. He also begged as well as if he was able to do, and finally he reached Malgudi. How did Whelan take care of the plants? Whelan heaped manure, aired the roots, trimmed the branches, and watered the plants twice a day. What is the name of the palatial house or palatial house? Palatial house give details that made the house acquire an imposing appearance. The palace was named as Kumar Bog, or in Hindi we say Kumar Bagh. The house proudly held up a dome. Balconies with intricately carved woodwork hung down from the sides of the houses, smooth, rounded pillars, deep verandas, checkered marble floors, spacious halls, ranged one behind another, gave the house such an imposing appearance. Kumar Bagh was the name of the palace. Mention the occasions on which Wellen would go to the village to spend time with his family. So he used to go on Pongal, New Year, Deepavali. So these were the occasions he used to go to his village to spend some time with his family. Why was Wellen worried when the master of the house passed away? Wellen was worried when the master of the house passed away because he might lose a job. He was afraid that he might lose a job. After a few days, few years, the house came to be known as Ghost House. What did the company which bought the house decided to do? The company would like to build small houses on this particular house by cutting the plants. What request did Wellen make with the tree cutters while leaving the house? Wellen requested the tree cutters not to cut the tree in his presence as he nurtured them more than his children. He says that, please allow me to go from here. At least in front of me, don't cut the trees. So these are the extra questions from now onwards. How much did Wellen's father earn in a week? Wellen's father earned a few annas in a week. Wellen starved for a couple of days. Where did he arrive at last? He arrived in Malgudi at last. What work was assigned to Wellen by the old man? The old man assigned Wellen the work of destroying the weed. Name some of the summer flowers that grew in the garden. The summer flowers that grew in the garden were hibiscus, very difficult to pronounce, cherries, anthemum, jasmine, roses, and canna. Why was Wellen proud of his position? Wellen was proud of his position because he was a chief gardener with an excellent garden. What was the reaction of the people after the prediction of the astrologer? The people made fun of Wellen after the prediction of the astrologer because they thought it impossible for Wellen to own a big house. What had Welland's father done? Welland's father had mortgaged every bit of his property he had. Which were the flowers that were grown by Welland in the front part of the Kumar Bog? So again, hibiscus, jasmine, roses, canna. So these were the flowers. Then, on which occasions he used to go to his ancestral village, Pongal, New Year, or Deepavali? Then, what was the main business of Welland when he was serving as a gardener? And his business was to destroy all the weeds where the garden had to be planted. Why did Welland have to shift his residence to the front veranda of the mansion? Welland had to shift his residence to the front veranda of the mansion because his hut was leaking and he could not repair it. After a few years, why did the house acquire the name of haunted house? Because nobody came, the house was abandoned and nobody came to visit it, so it acquired the name of haunted house or ghost house, Bhoot Bangla. Now, the 5 marks questions. How did Welland turn the weed covered land into a real beautiful garden? When Welland was 18, he left home. His father slapped him one day for coming late with the midday meal. This enraged Welland. He became so angry that he decided to leave home. He walked out of the village and walked on till he came to the town. Here he starved for a couple of days. Then he finally came to Malgudi. Here an old man took him as his assistant for laying a garden. Whelan accepted the job and sat day after day in the sun to clear the land of the unwanted plants. Gradually, the garden took shape. As the house came up, the garden also developed. By the time the Margosa tree came up to the vision of Whelan, the house had taken mellowness in its appearance, its original brightness had disappeared. Question number 2. Comment on the appearance of palatial house Kumar Bog. How did Whelan react to the imposing appearance of the house? The palatial house proudly held up a dome, balconies with intricately carved woodwork hung down from the sides of the houses, smooth rounded pillars, deep verandas, checkered marble floors, and spacious halls, ranged one behind another, gave the house such an imposing appearance that Valen asked himself that can any mortal live in this? He thought such mansion existed only in the Swarga Loka. When he saw the kitchen and the dining room, he said, why our whole village could be accommodated in this eating place alone? Next question. What are the changes seen in the house and its inmates by the time of Margosa plant grew to a magnificent tree? When the Margosa tree approximately came up to the house had acquired a mellowness in its appearance. Successive summers, the following summers, monsoons, had robbed the paint on the doors and the windows. Subsequently, the house had lost its shine and looked bleak. The frequent rains on the house made it lose its colors and looked faded. Doors, windows, woodworks were eaten by the termites and lost its shade. Slowly, the house was losing its shine. Even there was a change in the attitude of the masters, where the old man was restricted to bed and never used to come out. Why did Llewellyn feel miserable when the tenants began living in the house? After the death of his old master, the sons of the master visited the house once in a while. The house had lost its shine, and the paint of the building started fading, making it look older. Later, the new owners of the house started renting it to the tenants. Sorry, not more than a month, any tenant would stay there. The paint was ruining, and the plaster of the building was falling while the termites were eating the cupboards and the shelves. On the whole, the house started to get a haunted look, where later it assumed the name of the ghost house. Describe the behavior of the people who represented the company to which the house was sold. The people who represented the company had different attitude. They wanted each piece of the land converted into a plot. They had no interest in the house or the garden. Rather than admiring the scenic beauty of the garden, they saw only the commercial benefit from it. The company represented the business attitude, whereas Wellen was representing an innocent face who showered love towards the plants and also loved his profession. In reality, the garden is Wellen's whole world. He knows no other life. How did Wellen react when he saw men cutting down the old Margosa tree? Wellen was requesting with the woodcutters not to cut the Margosa tree because he looked after the tree and the plants in the garden more than his children. So Wellen spent most of his time looking after them and nurtured them well. Wellen used to talk to each plant and flowers, urging them on its growth. Wellen's complete world is dedicated or devoted to the garden. In many ways, the growth of the garden and the blooming of the flowers matches the prosperity and the happiness in Wellen's life. He has taken a patch of land, changed what was an eyesore into a thing of beauty. In reality, the garden is Wellen's whole world. He knows no other life. All the efforts he has put in over the years will go in vain. So this is how he reacted. Draw a character sketch of Velen. Velen, the protagonist of the story, is a very self-respecting person. He leaves the village because his father slapped him before other people. He's very honest and dedicated to his job. He does his job with the same dedication even after the death of the gardener and when nobody was there to supervise his work. He's highly attached to his garden, especially the Margosa tree, which he raised with great care. He cannot bear the thought of the garden, especially Margosa tree, being cut before his eyes. So he requests the workman when he has left the place, please let me go. Don't cut the trees in front of me. Comment the significance of the title, The X, the story The X. The X is a story of a boy named Wellen who left his home when he was 18 years old because his father slapped him in front of the village people because he came late for the lunch, for the meal, midday meal. He reaches Malgudi where a gardener puts him as his assistant. When he was a child, an astrologer had predicted about him that he would live in a three-storied house, but people made a fun of him. He assisted the old gardener in his idea of a big garden. It was a very big garden in acres of land, and a big house too was being built. Finally, a three-storied house was surrounded by big garden was ready. In the meantime, Gardner had suddenly fallen ill and he becomes the chief gardener. He enjoys his position and looks after the garden. He was happy and contented with his life. The owner of the house was weak and leaned on the staff, and his wife was an invalid. One day, he came to know that the owner of the house had passed away. The sons were not good. They quarreled among themselves and began to live in another house. A tenant settled in the house, but he had no regard for the gardener, for the garden, and spoiled the plants. But his fortune favored him. The tenant leaves the home, and the house is left abandoned. The sons came occasionally to check the house. They left the key of the house with him. It remained unoccupied for a very long time and began to be called a ghost house. He had become old by now. Since his hut was leaking, he began to live in the front veranda. Occasionally, he opened the house and swept it, but since he had become weak, he left it altogether. One day, a party comes, carefully examines the house, and leaves. Very soon, one of the sons tells him to leave the house because the house was sold to a company and they will pull down the house and rage the garden. Wellen had to retire to his old hut. He should go back to his old house. The house began to be pulled down and started felling of the trees. One day he saw his beloved margosa trees being cut. He planted this tree with his hands. He requested the woodcutters, the workers, not to cut the tree, but they said it was company's order. Then he decides to leave the place and request the workers to cut the trees when he has gone far away. He says that don't cut the trees in front of me. I have nurtured them for my whole life, so let me go. Then you cut the trees. So hence the title X is the most appropriate, subtle, and the apt title. We can also say that the story X gives a vivid picture of a society which is in process of transition and its impact on the people. Change is inevitable, but it can cause deep sorrow to many people. Wellen belongs to the old order of life, suffers deeply when the house with its beautiful garden is sold to a company which is interested only in material value, wants to use the plot to construct many small houses. Hence, the transition from the old order to the new order is not always smooth. It can be traumatic as well. So change is not always acceptable. So, friends, this is how I had tried to solve the questions of the famous story, The X by R.K. Narayan. For the summary of this video of this story, you can see in the description box all the videos links you can find. And please click on the like button if you like the video, write in the comment box, and subscribe the channel if you're not yet subscribed the channel. Mail me if you have any questions. You can mail me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Thank you so much.